Hello everyone, Shrouded Hand here. I've seen a couple of YouTube channels making videos about the movies and TV shows that freaked them out when they were kids, so I thought I would do something similar and talk about the things that scared me when I was little. This is all the nightmare fuel that I grew up watching and probably part of the reason why I love creepy stuff today. I'll start with the earliest thing I can remember scaring me, the original Incredible Hulk TV series. I can remember watching this when I was about 4 years old, that's how long ago it was. It wasn't really the Hulk monster that scared me, but the transformation scene where his eyes changed. There would always be this moment where he would look pretty normal, but then he would be wearing these coloured contact lenses that made his eyes look really scary, and that would be the bit that freaked me out. I'd hide behind the sofa every time Bruce Banner started to transform into the Hulk because I knew that little moment was coming. I must have been pretty obsessed with this scene. I can remember being told to draw a picture from my cousin who was in hospital, so I drew a picture of the Hulk transformation, complete with these freaky eyes. When I showed it to my mum, she said it was a lovely drawing, but maybe it was a bit too scary for my sick cousin, so he didn't end up getting that picture. I was also really scared of a TV show called Grotbags. If you grew up in the 80s, you probably remember Grotbags. She was this weird green-haired witch who lived in a castle with various other spooky characters. It wasn't Grotbags that I was scared of, it was her talking cauldron. Watching some clips of it now, I have no idea why I was so scared of the cauldron. It doesn't look scary at all now.
No, not your knighthood. That's all we need, Sir Lumpy of Neasden.
Apparently there was something about this cauldron that I found absolutely terrifying. I can even remember having nightmares about Grotbags. In one I was standing in this circular shaped room and there was the cauldron in the middle of the room. I start walking around the room trying to find a way out, and then a door opens and Grotbag runs out and starts chasing me round and round the cauldron in circles. Going to school was no escape from the nightmare fuel either. We were often made to watch these government safety videos. These things were designed to warn kids of the dangers of doing stuff like playing with fireworks or crossing railway lines. They were specifically made to be frightening. The idea was that our tiny minds would be so scarred from seeing these things that we would never do any of the activities in the video. The one I remember most vividly was about climbing on electrical pylons. Various kids get electrocuted to death in very graphic ways. You can imagine what kind of effect this had on the minds of children at the time. Let's just say I never did climb on any pylons, so maybe these things actually work. There's a few movie scenes that really stick in my mind. I can remember only getting partway through Star Trek The Wrath of Khan because one scene freaked me out so much I had to stop watching it. There's a bit where Khan has this worm creature and he pulls out some larvae from its back. And then he puts the larvae into these guys' space helmets and puts it on their heads, and it crawls into their ear, and the whole time they're just screaming in agony as these things worm their way into their brains. I think it's because when I was a kid I heard lots of stories about earwigs crawling into people's ears, and the idea of that always really horrified me. So seeing something like that in a movie, it really had a bad effect on me, and I couldn't watch the rest of the movie after that. I was a real big fan of Ghostbusters when I was a kid. I loved the cartoon series and I had all the toys and even the big Ghostbusters headquarters playset. But there was one scene in the original Ghostbusters movie that absolutely terrified me. The whole movie has lots of creepy moments, but most of them are played for laughs because it is a comedy film after all. However, there is one scene that is pure unadulterated horror. It's when Sigourney Weaver's in her kitchen and the eggs start to fry themselves on the counter. Watch this and tell me if it's not the scariest thing you've ever seen in your life. It's that moment at the end where the dog thing pops up and shouts Zool. Always terrified me. I always hated that scene. Going back to television now, kids' TV in the 80s and 90s had its fair share of freaky shit. There was so much that I made a compilation of creepy kids' TV a couple of years ago. If you've seen some of these clips before, it might be because I included some of them in that video. There was a show that I absolutely loved called Round the Twist. It was an Australian show about a family who lives in a lighthouse and they have weird things happen to them. Most episodes weren't all that scary, but there was one that gave me many a sleepless night. The episode was called No All. The kids find a chest full of circus clothing washed up on the beach, and they decide to dress a scarecrow in the clothes. This has the effect of making the scarecrow come to life and chase the girl all around the lighthouse. This scene in particular gave me the creeps. For some reason, I was always scared of something grabbing my feet if I got out of bed in the middle of the night, so this just made me even more scared of that happening. There was a BBC show called The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe. It was an adaptation of the Chronicles of Narnia books. I really did love this show, but my parents actually threatened to stop me from watching it because I had terrible nightmares every night after watching an episode. It was mostly the wolf Morgrim that scared me. Looking at it now, the costume looks kind of funny, but back then it was a source of unbridled terror. The idea of this scary werewolf guy stalking some kids in the forest still creeps me out to this day. There was a couple of scary game shows too. One was called Nightmare. In Nightmare, one kid had to wear this big helmet that covered their eyes, and then his friends would guide them around a dungeon and tell them what was happening. The dungeon was full of horrible death traps, and sometimes this goblin horn would sound, which always sent a cold feeling of dread down my spine.
Giles? Yeah? You're walking
Goblin hunting party. How far away do you reckon, Pickle?
Well, they're closing fast, Master, and they have the scent. Giles is going to be trapped.
Cast the spell.
Spellcasting!
But the one thing that really frightened me was the wall monsters. These were normal looking walls that would suddenly come to life and threaten to eat anyone who couldn't answer its riddles. Nightmare ran for a long time, and there were various different incarnations of the wall monster over the years, but it never stopped being absolutely terrifying. There was also a game show called Incredible Games. Most of it wasn't very scary, but there was a round at the end where contestants had to cross a grid whilst this Darth Vader type character tried to chase them down.
He's coming towards you. Ready? I think I'd be quite pleased if the Dark Knight actually maybe got a couple of them.
Which way I went last time?
The Dark Knight can't see where they are, but he can assist.
It's not really that creepy watching it today, but believe me, back then I knew many a kid who was scared of this guy. There's a couple of other things that I can't find any footage of, and it makes me think maybe I dreamt them, but I'm not sure. One was an episode of Roland Rat, where a guy goes around sucking stuff out of people's ears with a big straw. I remember thinking it was their brains he was sucking out, but then my mum told me it was meant to be their personality or something. I can't find any mention of this episode today, but it's a fairly vivid memory and it freaked me out, the idea of this guy going around sucking out people's brains through their ears. It seems like a weird thing to put in a kids' TV show, so I'm not sure if that episode actually exists, but maybe it does. Another memory I have is of sitting on my own in my front room, flicking through TV channels, and seeing this strange scene where the camera pans across this foggy swamp, and then out of the swamp rises this creepy looking clown statue. It looks kind of like one of those Weeble toys with the weight at the bottom, but it has these cartwheels on the side, and then chained to the back of the clown is the corpse of a dead guy. I remember switching off the TV immediately and freaking out, and this actually gave me recurring nightmares of being chased by these clown things with dead people chained to the back of them. I have no idea what show this was. It seemed like a strange thing to show in the middle of the day, which is when I would have been watching it, but the memory is very clear. So if anyone has any idea what this was that I saw, please let me know in the comments. I'd love to see it again, to see if it really is as freaky as I remember. There's many other things that scared me as a kid. I was quite a timid child, to be honest. It's fun watching these clips as an adult and thinking how it used to scare me. Some of these things still give me a little twitch of fear. It's like the idea of them being scary is still ingrained in my mind somehow. So, what things scared you as a child? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear about them. Thank you for watching this video. Shout out to Tim Farrell, James and Roman Jones. Thanks for supporting me on Patreon. Until next time, goodbye.